Some of you may be familiar with the latest Koei-Tecmo game to come out with a beta demo, Neo. Now, Neo has been in development hell for literally a decade, so I'm excited to see how it turns out once it gets full release. It was originally supposed to be based on an unfinished script by Kurosawa Akira and finished by his son Hisao, being made as a tie-in to a movie version that Hisao was going to direct. Now, things have changed a bit since then, and judging from what I saw in the demo, now you will play as William Adams. Adams is the guy that the main character in James Clavell's novel Shogun, John Blackthorne, is based off of. Now, an acquaintance online had put up a blog post remarking on how difficult of a fight the final boss in the demo was, and the boss in question was named Tachibana Muneshige, a lightning elemental boss. So I figured we could talk about the man behind the name from Neo, Tachibana Muneshige. Muneshige was actually born a son of Takahashi Shoun, also known as Takahashi Shigetane. Shoun was one of the chief retainers of the Otomo clan and ruled Iwayakasu. In the 1570s, there was a period of serious warfare between the Otomo and the other clans of Kyushu, Shimazu, Akizuki, and the Ryuzoji, whom we've spoken of before. Shoun was known for his usage of guerrilla tactics to beat enemies when the odds were stacked entirely against them. One of his favorite tactics was to engage an opponent who was more numerous, then feign retreat and withdraw to a position to set up an ambush. When the victorious enemy would come into range in pursuit formation, that is to say, lacking a disciplined formation, Shoun would launch a surprise attack and ambush them. The Takahashi and Tachibana clans worked in unison to protect Chikuzen province from a three-sided invasion. The lords of both clans were known for their resolve, bravery, and tactical genius, and were able to hold off all three invading clans throughout the years. Now here's an interesting story about Muneshige, getting back on topic. I don't know how true it is, and to be honest, it probably isn't, but it's a funny story nonetheless. Apparently, when Muneshige was a child, supposedly around 1575, Shoun and the Tachibana lord Dosetsu were watching some sort of show. I'm not real sure what kind of show he was at, but it turned into a brawl apparently, and one of the performers was killed in the fight. The story goes that the audience panicked and made a break for the exits. But Muneshige calmly stood there and watched the brawl go on. It wasn't until he was physically dragged away from the debacle did he leave, and even then he is said to have teased the others for panicking. Muneshige was known to be smart and brave, a good warrior and leader, and also a very well-educated man, skilled in art, poetry, and the tea ceremony. Because of this, Dosetsu is said to have asked to adopt Muneshige as a son since he had none of his own, at least none that survived into adulthood. Now Dosetsu's daughter Ginchio, as she's generally referred to, was a bit of a tomboy and is said to have been a skilled warrior in her own right, the missing son that Dosetsu never had. Dosetsu was never one to shy away from pushing boundaries, so he declared his daughter to be his heir. Many of the Tachibana higher-ups didn't like the idea of a woman running the show, though, but for the short game, Dosetsu's daughter was his heir. So finally, a deal was struck. Muneshige would marry Dosetsu's daughter, be adopted into the Tachibana clan, and he and Ginchio would rule the clan together. Shoun is said to have refused the deal for many years, since Muneshige was his eldest son and was actually slated to be his own heir. Some sources even suggest that the long friendship between Dosetsu and Shoun was even strained by Dosetsu's insistence on adopting the boy, at this point still called Takahashi Munetora. Muneshige was finally adopted into Dosetsu's family as Dosetsu's son and became known as Tachibana Muneshige. Other things didn't go quite as planned, as the marriage between Muneshige and Ginchio didn't occur as early as anticipated, and I'll get back to that later. Muneshige is said to have participated in his first battle under Dosetsu's command in 1581 at Honami against the Akizuki clan. Muneshige is said to have fired an arrow, striking the Akizuki samurai Horie Bizen in the arm. As one might expect, Horie wasn't really amused by this. He plucked the arrow from his arm and charged at Muneshige, who was only 14 years old, mind you, and intended to engage the young man in close combat. Horie attacked the youth, and was greatly surprised when Muneshige overpowered him at first. They grappled for a short time before a fellow Otomo samurai gave aid to Muneshige, breaking the stalemate, and killed Horie. His next major campaign occurred when the Tachibana and Takahashi clans were asked by Otomo Sorin, the lord of the Otomo clan, with recapturing land in Chikugo province that had been lost to the Akizuki years ago. Muneshige was fighting under the Tachibana banner, but fighting alongside his biological father's army as well, the Takahashi. Muneshige was left behind to defend Tachibana Castle, while Dosetsu and Shoun pursued the fleeing Akizuki. During this time, Akizuki Tanezane, the lord of the Akizuki, prepared to besiege Muneshige's castle, sitting high atop Mount Tachibana. Muneshige sallied forth from the castle in the night and set the Akizuki army on fire, raiding their camp in the night. Tanezane was forced to withdraw and give up on his siege entirely. When the combined Tachibana-Takahashi army returned, a banquet was held to honor Muneshige's accomplishments. It is said that during this banquet, Muneshige committed a political gaffe by referring to Shoun as his father, which was technically true, since Shoun was his biological father. Shoun, ever the party pooper, openly rebuked his son, his biological son, and totally disowned him, stating that Muneshige was, and always has been, a Tachibana. One theory is that Shoun was still sore about losing his highly talented eldest son and heir to Dosetsu, and was now seeing just how much he had lost. In his rage, he berated his son in front of everyone else at the party. You know, the party being held in Muneshige's honor. Now we get to the year 1585, about a year after Shoun put the smackdown on his no longer son. Muneshige's adopted father dies of illness while on campaign. Now, Ginchio is the official leader of the Tachibana clan. Some records suggest that Ginchio and Muneshige were married as soon as Muneshige was adopted in the Tachibana. Others, however, suggest that it was after Dosetsu's death the marriage was to finally occur. Popular legends suggest that Ginchio initially refused to marry Muneshige, for various reasons. My favorite, unlikely as it is to be true, is that Ginchio challenged Muneshige to a duel. If he won, she would marry him. They met in the courtyard of the clan's capital, Yanagawa Castle, and they fought each other, with Ginchio winning the duel. So, she banished Muneshige to their other castle at Tachibana-yama. It's a wonderful story, and would make a great scene in a movie, but highly unlikely to be even remotely true. Some other stories are that Ginchio didn't trust Muneshige's loyalty to the Tachibana, having been a Takahashi, that she didn't respect his merits or abilities, or that she just simply didn't like him. Either way, they eventually were married, although there seems to be no goodwill between the two of them. Some stories suggest that very shortly after their marriage, Muneshige usurped Ginchio's authority and divorced her, stealing control of the Tachibana clan and exiling to her convent south of Yanagawa Castle. Another suggests that Muneshige and Ginchio couldn't stand to be in the same room, so they lived in different castles during their time as husband and wife. These could be true, or it could simply be an anachronistic explanation for why Ginchio never bore the couple any children. Some sources suggest that Muneshige may also have been infertile, or just unlucky, claiming that after divorcing Ginchio and stealing the rulership of the clan, he remarried and still didn't get any kids out of the deal. Either way, by 1586, the Otomo clan was weakened by the deaths of several prominent generals, not the least of which included Tachibana Dosetsu. The Ryuzoji had been defeated, and the two major factions of the island of Kyushu were the Shimazu and the Otomo, the former of which were gaining strength quickly. The Shimazu invaded the Otomo lands and quickly besieged Iwaya Castle. Iwaya Castle. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? Oh, right, that's Takahashi Shoun's castle. Shimazu army numbered between 20 and 50,000 men. Shoun has an equally sizable force of... well, okay, he's only got about 700 troops to his name right now. Shoun decides to barricade his castle and try to hold out against the Shimazu. And surprisingly enough, this works. For about 3 weeks, Shoun holds off the Shimazu forces. Part of this was said to be caused by the Shimazu's respect for Shoun's loyalty and reputation, but after a week or so of continually pushing Shoun to either surrender or abandon the castle, the Shimazu had begun trying to capture the fortification by force. Shoun was no pushover, and some accounts state that the moat of the castle ran red with Shimazu blood by the 3rd week, and that the courtyard was so blood-covered that it couldn't dry or soak into the soil before the next wave of fighting would occur. Needless to say, the whole thing was basically just a waiting game. It seems apparent that Shoun knew no reinforcements were coming, and it is likely that he was acting as interference while his lord went to Osaka and begged for Toyotomi Hideyoshi to come rescue the Otomo. Hideyoshi did just that by sending a messenger to broker peace. The Shimazu refused, and after roughly 27 days of besieging Iwaya Castle, the Shimazu commanders, Shimazu Tadanaga and Ijuin Tadamune, decided to put the full brunt of their overwhelming army against the castle. The records state the army numbered 50,000 and that Ijuin led 20,000 into the castle to kill whatever still remained of Shoun's 700 some odd men. And they did just that. Now both of Muneshige's fathers are dead, but there's an even bigger issue. Tachibana Castle, his home, is the next castle in the Shimazu path. Shoun bought the Otomo time, but not enough for Toyotomi to get his army all the way to Kyushu to aid his new allies, the Otomo. The Shimazu army still numbered in the tens of thousands, and now led by the indomitable Shimazu Yoshihisa himself, surrounded Tachibana Castle. In a situation like this, his two fathers, Tachibana Dosetsu and Takahashi Shoun, would have engaged in a vicious campaign of guerrilla warfare. And Muneshige was a good student. Muneshige gave the Shimazu no rest and constantly engaged in raiding them, night attacks, and surprise attacks, all types of desperate defensive strategies. One report claims that Muneshige personally led a night raid into the Shimazu camp and took several dozen heads before fleeing back into the night, and ultimately back into Tachibana Castle. I imagine those heads were probably either flung over the walls back at their owner's comrades, or hung from the walls to frighten the Shimazu. And then it happened. News reached Kyushu that Toyotomi's armies were soon to arrive. The Shimazu were bloodied and fatigued. They only had two options: withdraw from Tachibana and reassemble themselves, or push forward and take the castle at all costs. My understanding from the difference of tone in the various accounts suggests that the Shimazu adopted the first strategy, and Muneshige may have thought they were going to adopt the second, because the Shimazu broke camp and withdrew from the siege. But about the same time, Muneshige declared the fort a lost cause, and sallied forth in a desperate attempt to engage the Shimazu. What he found was a large Shimazu army that was not expecting a counterattack of that magnitude. Muneshige actually won the battle, chasing the Shimazu from his home. I mean, it was a moot point. Some of the records suggest that Muneshige barreled his way through and retook Iwaya and other lost territory. A more believable account suggests that after bloodying the Shimazu, Muneshige withdrew to his other castle at Yanagawa, and the Shimazu managed to take Tachibana Castle anyway. Either way, that's also a moot point, because Muneshige joined Toyotomi's vassals and allies in the battles against the Shimazu that ultimately resulted in the Shimazu's defeat and surrender in the year 1587. For his efforts, Muneshige was officially awarded the territory around Yanagawa Castle with an income well over 100,000 koku. Some records call it 120,000, others 130,000. Either way, he had a pretty sizable bit of territory for himself. Of course, Tachibana was awarded to the Kobayakawa family after the campaign, but it doesn't appear to have caused any ill will between the two families. Something about getting a raise of probably 100 times your current income tends to make you forget little things like the house you were named after was given to somebody else. Here's a bit of humor for you. Ultimo Soren, ostensibly Muneshige's liege, praised Muneshige as a peerless warrior when speaking to Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Muneshige, not one to shy away from ambition, was made an independent daimyo outside of the Otomo's own 370,000 koku authority in Bungo and Buzen. Muneshige's next operation was in aiding the lord of nearby Higo, Sasa Narimasa, in putting down a rebellion. Narimasa, many argue, had been set up for failure by Toyotomi Hideyoshi, to give the latter an excuse to disinherit and execute him. In the end it worked. Narimasa committed suicide, as did his sons, once the rebellion was put down. Muneshige is said to have become friends with Kobayakawa Hidekane during this time, and Muneshige would go on to serve under Hidekane's adoptive father, Kobayakawa Takakage, during his time in the First Korean invasion. During said invasion, Muneshige was leading somewhat of a rearguard operation against the Chinese army by trying to barricade the roads in Muju County, when Takakage repositioned his troops in Hanshong. Muneshige's own troops were also on the move and unprepared for the sudden arrival of the Chinese army, and he was forced to withdraw from his waylaying operations. Later in the war, Muneshige's unit was acting in conjunction with Konishi Yukinaga's forces after the capture of Pyongyang, and Muneshige acted in the Japanese vanguard during the Battle of Byokje. Muneshige, along with his younger brother who had taken over as head of the Takahashi clan after Shoun's death, led a valiant surprise attack against the Chinese army, pushing it back. Kobayakawa Takakage came to assist them, and they dealt a defeat to the powerful Chinese army. Of course, we know that in the end the Chinese and Korean armies were victorious, mostly thanks to the Korean Navy's withering operations. When the Japanese returned to Korea a few years later, Muneshige operated in mainly a defensive capability, guarding various Korean castles and fortifications after they had been captured by somebody else. Muneshige's only real major engagement was in the end of the war, when he acted alongside the Shimazu, his old enemies, to help the forces of Konishi Yukinaga escape the pursuing Chinese-Korean allied army. You know, I was surprised when I started my research just how eventful Muneshige's life was. Since this video is already getting pretty long, and we've only just made it to the part where you would actually meet him in the game, most likely, let's go ahead and wrap this up for now, and we'll pick it back up on the 21st with part 2 of Muneshige's video. Let me know in the comments if you were able to beat Muneshige in Neo's demo as well. And as always, let us know in the comments any person, event, or topic that you want us to cover on Samurai Gaiden. Until the second part of Muneshige's video is up, you can click on the left side of the screen to go to our last video on the Battle of Uji, the first Battle of Uji, which completed our talk about the Genpei War, for now at least. You can also click on the right side of the screen to watch the Samurai Gaiden playlist of all of our videos from Ashikaga Yoshiteru and on.